Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Saturday, June 1st, 2024. As far as I'm concerned, summer has begun. So good morning to you on this day of Saturn. We have a waning crescent moon. We are in the midst of Gemini season, the Celtic true month of Hawthorn, the month of Deer, and the Pluto retrograde. So let's look at our planetary astrology for the day. The sun is in Gemini, mutable air, representing communication. The moon is fourth quarter Aries, cardinal fire, representing energy. Mercury is in Taurus, fixed earth, representing practicality. Venus is in Gemini, mutable air, representing the spendthrift. Mars is in Aries, cardinal fire, representing initiative. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air, representing questing. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, representing nostalgia. Uranus is in Taurus, fixed earth representing renovation. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water representing imagination. And Pluto is retrograding Aquarius, fixed air, meaning we need to examine our intentions and remember the Pluto retrograde mantra of reflect, heal, and evolve. Next up, the moon phase. Again, it is waning crescent, which means we need to rest, reflect, and purge. And for the Aries moon, some of our do's are to be courageous, to brainstorm, and to make decisions. Some of the don'ts include conflict resolution, testing patience, your own or other people's, and the general avoidance of sharp objects. So, Saturn is pulling us into evaluating the past and learning from it, but the energetic Gemini sun and the Aries moon is encouraging us to actually apply those lessons, as well as disposing of any dead weight, anything that has been keeping us down, past chapters of our life that really do need to be just kind of closed off and be done with. Things of that nature. This is the time for all of that. So we have a busy day and we have a busy season ahead of us. Now, for our tarot card of the day, as you can tell, we have switched decks. We are now taking from the Chrysalis Tarot, which is written by Tony Brooks, and the paintings were done by Holly Sierra. It's a really pretty deck that draws from a lot of different mythologies and their symbolism and finding some common threads. We may very possibly be using this deck throughout the rest of the summer, so you might be seeing a lot of these cards. But today, we have the Eight of Spirals, and the key word of this card is answers. And it signifies that swift progress will be made. That which has been lingering will be resolved, and a likely successful conclusion to events is being heralded. Everything is moving forward. This is very fitting because that's also going along with today's astrology. It's get on with it. Leave the past behind. If something is an unnecessary burden that you just don't need to carry anymore, drop it. Just poof, let it go and move forward. Stop looking back on it. And this is also signaling the beginning of a season that is not introspective at all. We are getting forward. We're just getting on with it. We're making use of a lot of projective masculine energy. So if you've been having things on the to-do list, today's the day to start crossing those off because everything is setting itself up for success in that regard. Now, today's Celtic Triad reads, 3 things which turn the world upside down: a mate's dominance, a daughter's intemperance, and a son's ignorance. So we've got family troubles today. A domineering mate, whether we're talking about the husband or the wife, they are just an absolute misery to contend with. And we know the sort of person we're talking about. It's all about them. It has to be their way or the highway, and they don't care which way that it goes. And, you need to do everything that they're telling you to do. You can have a little betting pool about how anyone who ever had the audacity to come into my life with that attitude, just exactly how long they lasted. Let me know in the comments, if you think it was 10 minutes or 10 seconds. So, to give you something to work with. But the reason for that is just because someone who has that kind of attitude, you can't negotiate with them. You can't move forward together. You cannot pull together as a team. And everything, the more you try with people like that, the more your world is just going to continually get out of balance. And, up is down, down is up, and, left is right, and so on and so forth. You cannot deal with that. It is a condition that is incompatible with the continuation of life. There's a reason. That sort of thing is the reason why, as important as marriage is, and as important as it is not to, enter into a marriage lightly or leave a marriage lightly, there are reasons why there are times when divorce actually is an acceptable solution. And if you have this domineering person who is not going to mend their ways, and they're not going to treat you with respect, and they're just, running roughshod over absolutely everybody in the family, kick them to the curb. They need to learn a life lesson. That's It's just the reality of it. We don't live in perfect world, and sometimes we have to use solutions that we would prefer not to in order to deal with the imperfections that we deal with. Now, a daughter's intemperance. And this is about being emotionally out of control, just completely schizoid. And, we know, and let's not get upset about this, we know that on average, women in general tend to be a bit more emotional and emotionally driven and emotionally vulnerable than men. So, and seeing this intemperance in your child, it is likely to manifest in your daughter. Not that it's impossible to manifest in your son. Let us have no tediousness on that subject, because we're talking about generalities. And this idea of, just they're going to screech, they're going to pitch a fit, they're going to have this tidal wave of emotion because they're trying to get their way. I mean, that is just as destructive as being married to someone who has that same attitude. And the difficulty with that, particularly in a woman, when she's, she's this force of nature, but she's nothing else. Uh, how is she going to get along in life? How is she going to become a helpful partner to anyone? How is she going to have even friends? How is she going to keep down a job? Because someone like that, I'm telling you, as much as we've had out of control emotions for the past couple of decades, I'm telling you that pendulum is swinging the other way, and people are tired of dealing with it. And there's a lot of harsh things being said about women. And if we are to retain a respectable position in the world, it is going to require us having greater mastery over our emotions for this reason. And now, son's ignorance. And again, it can be an ignorant daughter. Let's not be tiresome. But a son who is willfully remains uneducated, that is an absolute curse on the family, because he cannot progress to a state of actual adult manhood. And I want to say, manhood in the sense of conducting himself in a manner that is befitting a man, not someone who just managed to not die before he reached his legal majority. There is a difference, as I'm sure many of us will agree. And the trouble is that if he's uneducated, if he is ignorant, he doesn't understand how the world works. He doesn't understand what is required of him. He's not going to learn how to be a productive citizen. He's not going to learn how to be a good spouse. He's not going to learn how to be a good father. He's not even going to be someone you would particularly want on a job site. He's just not going to be any use to himself or to his family, because let's say he carries on this way his whole life and his parents grow old, they need his help. What use is he going to be? Probably not a whole lot. And he probably wasn't able to form a lasting partnership with a woman, so that, you can't exactly rely that there's going to be a daughter-in-law to make up for his deficiencies. And I think that when we look at, the faults of the children being mentioned here, you can see how this turns into them eventually becoming that domineering mate, because it's their perspective and nothing else, and they refuse to deal with the world on anything other than their own terms. There is no sense of reasonableness. There is no moderation. There is no common sense to that. So it's important for us to do what we can to keep our families in order, and to correct and curb our children's flaws. Because, yeah, I know, parents, you love your kids. I know that you do, but they're still imperfect people, and it matters whether or not you are encouraging them to improve themselves, or whether you're just letting them carry on in their flaws, which will become more and more disagreeable the older that they get. So lots of things to think about with today's triad, isn't there? Now for today's magical intention. It is about vision, about getting visions, being more open to visions, and also being able to properly interpret visions. For this, we have the color blue, we have the birch tree, the lizard, and lapis lazuli. And if you're going to be working with any or all of these correspondences today, I would ask you to contemplate the question of, what is it that you hope to see? If you are wanting to get a vision of something, is it about your future? Is it about clarification on your present? Is it about better understanding your past, so you understand how you got here and exactly what train track you've put yourself on, and whether or not it's time to make significant changes? Go try to crystallize in your mind what it is that you are hoping to see, to better improve the odds that that's what you'll ultimately get. Now, of course, I always have to put this in as a little bit of a disclaimer. Sometimes we can go into a working and have every intention that we want to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and the gods have an entirely different view on the matter. So if you do get that strong of a response, that's not the time to be imposing your will. It's rather to listen and to try to glean the lesson from it. Now, for today's pagan practice, it's the first of the month. So, we're going to have that New Year's resolution checkup. How are you doing? Have you accomplished any of your goals? Are you working towards your goals? Do you remember what the goals you set in January were? You still got 6 months to work on it. So, if you have hit a snag or you've had to recalibrate or any other things, if you've had any pitfalls or you just haven't even gotten started, you still have 6 more months to make something happen. And as we're going into the busy season, this you're going to have a little bit of extra energy just in the ether to actually get this stuff done. So, make the most of that moment. Because it is Saturday, this is a good day to honor deities that are associated with the practice of magic. And also, I've decided to start incorporating chakra work, chakra a day, just because after a recent live stream that I did with Georgia Liberty, where we talked about the earth chakras and how that relates to ours and the various things that we can learn about and the journeys we can take with this, it has really persuaded me that it does matter to really prioritize working with these energy centers, not only for our spiritual well-being and enlightenment, but also to help regulate our physical well-being. So Sundays are going to be for the crown chakra. So good luck with that today. Also, of Sunday, Saturdays help. Sundays will be the root chakra. I'm already a day ahead. Anyway, this is also a good day to study your Saturn sign. Learning about our natal charts, and if you haven't already got one, just look up free natal chart on a search engine and you'll come up with some options and you'll get an idea of where your placements are. But the reason why it is so difficult to really process what our natal chart means and how we function within it is just because it is very complicated, and because, as I've said many times, a lot of people who have astrology as their main practice really suck at explanations, and they are not particularly good teachers, and they tend to confuse the waters rather than clarifying things. So what I have found to be a helpful approach is to try to give the study of astrology some context, relate it to things that we see around us every single day, and then pick up chunks and pieces of information, a little bit at a time. So Saturdays, because it's the day of Saturn, look at your Saturn sign. The Sundays, your sun sign. Mondays, your moon sign, and so on and so forth. And that's just part of what we're going to do going forward. And then last but not at all least, start freshening up your altar for the solstice. As you can see behind me, I have zhuzhed things up a little bit. And if you look up there, see, I've got some pretty flowers. You can't see it, but I've redone my candles. I have a red glass candlestick that I have representing the masculine side of my altar, and then I have a green candlestick that has that's shaped like a flower, and it has a pretty flower on top, and that's where you put the tea light. I have that for representing the goddess's side, and then I have blue for water, green for earth, white for air, and another red for fire, representing the elemental energies. So I have a pretty skinny altar, so I'm not always able to have everything exactly as I want it to, but I'm feeling very pulled towards keeping it back to these basics, the interplay of masculine and feminine energies and the elemental energies of the universe. And I feel just that's kind of where I'm needing to be centered right at this moment. So you'll probably be seeing that reflected in my altar, at least, the parts of it that you can see. Anyway, make yours pretty. I would wish I could see pictures. I don't think YouTube actually lets you post pictures in the comments, and as far as I know, Rumble doesn't either. But if you want to share pictures with me, you can tag me on Twitter or X or Twix, whatever we're calling it, and just kind of show off what you've done, and I can ooh and ah and admire you, because a lot of pagans make really beautiful seasonal altars, and I just think it's nice for people to be admired. I mean, I'm a Leo. I like to be appreciated, so I'm operating on the assumption that other people also like to be appreciated. So hit me up on Twitter and where I can appreciate you. Now we have our journal prompt for this first day of June. I found a very pretty picture called Summer Solstice by an artist called Freya Hartis, who actually did freaking label her work. Thank you for that. I like to give credit where credit is due. But Letha, the summer solstice, it is approaching. And what does this time of the sun's greatest strength mean to you? We have a lot of different lores from different cultural mythologies and from different pantheons that relate to this idea of, this height of the sun and what it means and what different stories were taking place. So asking yourself about what what does it really overall mean to you? Are you really resonating with one particular story or one particular solar deity, or is it the season in general? Just what does it mean to you? Dig deep within yourself, and also this by this process of doing so could actually help you start planning out what your summer solstice ritual is really going to be focused upon this year. So, you know, you never know when you might get these little insights that say, oh, aha, I'm going that direction. So that's what I have for you today, my darlings. Come back again tomorrow and we will have another daily forecast. I look forward to seeing you then. Let me know what you think of all this in the comment section below. You can email me at Brigantia Blackbird at protonmail.com if you would prefer, or especially if you have pretty pictures to share with me, you can, I'm Brigantia Blackbird at Blackbird's Brew on Twitter, Twix, X, and just absolutely follow me there. I'm going to be trying to have a lot more pagan-focused content that's appearing on a daily basis. At the time of this recording, I'm starting to gather the stuff to do so. So hopefully I will have something that you will find uplifting for you there. But that does it. I must let you get on with the rest of your day. I must get on with mine, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.